Good evening and welcome to our June 8th Planning Commission meeting. Just a few items to go over. We are meeting live on Zoom here this evening, and also are live on Comcast Local Channel 27 and Pacific Coast TV's website. We have some community members in attendance this evening. Those of you wishing to speak on general terms or general topics, we will have a general public forum open for that at the beginning of the meeting. And then we have specific public item will come up, public comment will come up on that item specifically with Chair Ruddick. Those wanting to speak will be allowed to speak by raising their hand at that time. If you're using a telephone, *6 to raise and unraise, and *9 to mute and unmute yourself. Most tablets, phones, and iPhones, tablets, and computers do have the raise hand feature. You'll be given 3 minutes for each commenter, so please be considerate of the time. There were no Planning Commission emails that were sent this evening, no public comment that was sent over or correspondence tonight. And I will now hand it over to Chair Ruddick to officially start this evening's meeting.
Thank you, Bridget. I will open this June 8th, 2021 meeting of the Planning Commission of the City of Half Moon Bay and invite everyone to join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. And Bridget, if you would please call the roll.
Yes, Commissioner Benjamin is absent this evening, excused. Commissioner Gorn?
Here.
Commissioner Hernandez? I hear him and I see him. You're on mute. Vice Chair Polgar?
Here.
And Chair Ruddick?
Here.
Okay, all 4 commissioners are here.
Very good. The first item on our agenda is consideration of the minutes of our last meeting, which was May 25th. Do any commissioners have edits or comments to those minutes? They would be happy to entertain a motion to approve the minutes.
I'll move that we approve them.
Thank you.
Second the motion.
Thank you.
Okay. Commissioner Gorn?
Yes.
Commissioner Hernandez?
Aye.
Vice Chair Polgar?
Yes.
And Chair Ruddick?
Yes.
Motion approved.
Very good. Brings us to the point, brings us to public comment, which is the period at the start of each Planning Commission meeting where we welcome members of the public who are in attendance to address the commission on any topic they desire, other than items that follow later on our agenda, at which time we'll have public hearings specifically for those items. But if members of the public wish to address the Planning Commission on any other topics, now is the time to do so.
I'm seeing none.
All right. And let us go to the next item on our agenda, which is public hearing on the application for a coastal development permit at 698 Terrace Avenue. And Scott, will you be presenting on this one?
Yes, that's correct, Chair Ruddick.
Very good.
Thank you for the introduction, and nice to see you and the rest of the commissioners this evening. We'll certainly miss Jimmy, but let me go ahead and switch over to some PowerPoint slides to kind of give a synopsis of the project. And I'll go ahead and share the screen 2. Can everyone see that okay?
Yes, I see it well.
Yes.
All right, so this project was reviewed by the commission last April and includes a new one-story split-level residence with 3,624 square feet, and that includes a 3-car garage, removal of 8 eucalyptus trees, and installation of a new curb gutter, driveway apron, and sidewalk along the entire frontage of the site. No variances or exceptions are requested, and the permits, as mentioned earlier, includes a coastal development permit and architectural review. Now, this item was continued to a date uncertain, so we re-noticed for the meeting this evening, which included posting the site, sending out notices to the neighbors, and publishing a new notice in the newspaper. This slide includes the site and surrounding area. Just as an update, it's the last lot as you go up Terrace on the left, just before entering Pacific Ridge. And the kind of the unique thing about the lot is that it's got a kind of a narrow drainage feature on the back, and includes several eucalyptus trees that sort of dominate the site. The subject property is zoned R1B2, which does allow for single-family residences. Now, a couple of key points that came up at the previous meeting that was discussed by the commissioners included the riparian buffer. It was sort of difficult to see it on the plans. It wasn't very clear. So that's one thing that I asked that the applicant sort of brush up on and make it more clear within the plans that you can just see the riparian buffer. And then also several improvements were encroaching into the riparian buffer. So that was one sort of another point of discussion. And also the plant palette within the landscape plan. Commission had some discussion on that, and whether or not the project biologist had a chance to go through it. So that was another item on the list. Now, as far as the revised project description, the actual size of the house is actually slightly smaller than the design that the commission reviewed back in April. A reduction of 37 square feet of lot coverage and floor area. The grading and architectural approaches in the riparian buffer have also been eliminated, and the landscape plan has been substantially modified. So I'll go through those sort of 3 changes. Now this slide includes the revised site plan, and you'll notice that the topographic lines have been eliminated from the riparian buffer in the back, and that's really helped sort of clear up exactly where it is located. And for the purposes of this presentation, I've added the red line indicating the riparian buffer edge, as well as the retaining wall off to the right. Now, the primary change is that the footprint has been reduced to provide a little space in between the back wall of the house and the riparian buffer, and that'll allow for normal house maintenance, painting, washing, without encroaching into the riparian buffer. Let's see. You'll also notice that the drainage swale that was previously located in the back has been eliminated. So now it's left as is. Now, as far as the house goes, the main change is in the back. And as you can see, the previous door that was proposed on the bottom, the bottom is the rear elevation that the commission previously reviewed. It has been changed to a window. Now we do recommend an additional condition of approval, removing the exterior lights that are still on the sides of the window. Really, they don't really serve a purpose right now. And I've discussed that with the applicant, and they're okay with removing the lights on there. And I think that's an easy change that could be checked during building permit plan check. I tried to sort of emphasize the change to the floor plan. Primarily, it had to do with bedroom 1 and bathroom 4. The bathroom has been modified to include a single sink vanity, whereas the previous design had a 2-sink vanity, and the bedroom has been shrunk to reduce the floor area. Section, not a huge noticeable change on the section. For the drainage plan, you'll notice that the grading that was previously proposed in the back of the house has been eliminated, and that was primarily fill. So the net off-haul has actually increased by roughly 15 cubic yards, and that's because of the fill that's been eliminated from the project. You'll also notice again that the swale that was previously located in the back has been eliminated, and the drainage swale that's still in the front and on the west side has been redesigned to accommodate the additional stormwater runoff. This new design has been vetted by our engineering staff, and they did go through a couple of little changes, but engineering staff, they are okay with the new approach for the grading and drainage plan. Now, as far as landscape plan, quite a bit of changes. And for one, the split rail fence located along the riparian buffer edge sort of delineates the native riparian plants on the north side of the split rail fence to the more ornamental towards the house. No changes to the plants are proposed on the north side of the creek. That's to remain as is. There's actually quite a bit of poison oak that's thriving there, and that is proposed to just remain as is. The biologist has reviewed this new landscape plan and plant palette in detail, and they have not identified any potential impacts that would be created by the new landscape plan. They also concluded that the previous recommendations that they've made are appropriate for the new landscape design, and so there no changes to the mitigation measures would need to take place. Now the tree protection plan was actually revised a little bit as well to coincide with the split rail fence, and let's see, just 8 eucalyptus trees would be removed as similar to the previous design.
Could you repeat that last thing? I didn't hear you.
So 8 eucalyptus trees would be removed.
Instead of what?
That it was the same as before.
Okay, that's what I thought. Okay, thank you.
Just a reminder on CEQA, we did circulate the initial study for 20 days. We did not receive any comments. So, the CEQA analysis that was done previously is pertinent to the review today. And that's about all I have. I'm happy to answer any questions. The design team for this project is logged in this evening. We also have the project biologist, as well as Jonathan in Public Works. He's here this evening, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Well, thank you, Scott. If commissioners have clarifying questions to ask of Scott, this is the right point in time. Vice Chair Polgar, please.
I think mine's really quick. I just wanted to clarify that the split rail fence was where that red line was on the slides that you were showing.
Yes, that's
Sorry, my
correct.
cat is upset.
Yeah, to coincide with the buffer edge. So.
Commissioner Gorn.
And can you tell me where those 8 eucalyptus trees are? Because I don't actually see them on the map. And I think I'm just reading it wrong. So
Certainly, I'll go ahead and screen share again and then point out the eucalyptus
Thank you.
trees. Okay, so starting in the east here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So they're indicated with these little X's.
thank you. That's perfect.
So, and the idea is to, just within the footprint of the house, those would be the trees that would be removed.
Thank you.
Commissioner Hernandez.
Scott, could you talk to us about the path in front of the house? Is that a crushed granite or decomposed granite trail? Is it a sidewalk? And how does it align with the existing trails or sidewalks on that street?
So as you go, as you walk along the sidewalk in front of the site, I guess east, you'll eventually go into the Pacific Ridge property. And there's a decomposed granite path that runs sort of on the north side of Upper Terrace Avenue. And then there's actually a walking path that extends up sort of around above phase 2 for Pacific Ridge. Now the idea is that, you know, this sidewalk would be maintained and connect to that walking path.
So it's a decomposed granite path,
Yes, within Pacific Ridge.
but on that in front of the house, is it going to be a sidewalk or a decomposed granite path?
It's going to be a concrete sidewalk.
Okay.
So,
And then I noticed in my correspondence with you, I noted that there's an informal trail that runs along the sort of northeastern edge of the property. And it's not paved, it's not decomposed granite, it's just there's clearly foot traffic that's been going there through the riparian area. Is there any kind of prescriptive easement we need to be worried about for that property? It was a historic use of a trail that seems to be evidenced. And when I look at Google Maps, you can't see the area I'm talking about. But if I look a little further out, you can see where there are existing trails that have been beat into the ground from a map that look like they connect in that area. So could you talk about what's going on in that area?
certainly. And I, you know, after getting, you sent me the email, I went out to the site and looked around and did some investigating. And the trail itself, it may clip the northeastern corner of the property, but most of it is actually within the Pacific Ridge Area B lot, and then extends out into the city-owned Beechwood property. And what I saw was it primarily is being used as sort of neighborhood kids for, you know, building forts and kind of, you know, sort of a play trail kind of thing. At least that's what I saw going on when I was out there. And I talked it over with city staff, and we did not really come to the conclusion that it sort of meets the definition or direction of a prescriptive easement. But I know our deputy city attorney Winter has a lot of background on this, and you know, she may be able to chime in and add a little to my narrative.
Yeah, I'm happy to chime in here. You know, it's a factual question whether a prescriptive easement has been obtained, and it would typically be an issue between the private property owner and whoever is claiming the prescriptive easement. But it is fairly a fairly high bar to establish. I mean, it has to be continuous, open, and notorious adverse use for a period consistently of 5 years. And if, you know, if the landowner condoned it or allowed it, then no easement has been obtained. So, you know, again, it seems like the main point is, sounds like the vast majority of the trail is not on this property. But, you know, it also is a pretty high standard to meet, and would likely be an issue between whoever is claiming it and the property owner, as opposed to the city.
Okay, great. Thank you. And then are there, in the proposal we have before us, is there any kind of deed restriction that prevents the owner from developing in the riparian area, anything to keep them from later on sneaking in and dropping a patio over that spot? Is there anything, any kind of control that we have in place?
Well, you know, we do have, you know, the allowed uses that are within our zoning code and implementation plan. If that were to take place, then we could, and, you know, we received a complaint or noticed anything, we could, you know, use code enforcement to, you know, abate the violation.
Okay, thank you.
Any additional clarifying questions from the commission at this point? Well, seeing none, I will open the public hearing on this item and ask Bridget to do her usual fine job of traffic control. If members of the public wish to speak to the commission on this item, now is the time to do so. Please raise your hands virtually.
I'm seeing none.
All right, well, I'll close the public hearing and ask planning commissioners to share deliberations on this item. Who would like to kick things off? Commissioner Hernandez, thanks.
I continue to think the design is aesthetically pleasing. I am pleased with the changes that have been made to the project, specifically around the grading, the minor changes to the scope and scale of the project to accommodate the restrictions in the riparian zone. And overall, I feel like it's a good project that fits into the neighborhood. It's a little large for the properties that are west of it, but when you compare it to the properties in Pacific Ridge, it's consistent in scale and scope with those houses and makes good use of the lot. I am concerned, given the historic abuses that many landowners have engaged in our community, that we don't have something a little more restrictive in this riparian zone. And given the case history where we've attached restrictions on people who are building in a riparian area, I'd like to see something with a little more teeth around that, other than relying on enforcement, which is oftentimes underfunded, and there's too many things to deal with from an enforcement perspective. So, but overall, I'm very supportive of the project.
Thank you. Vice Chair Polgar.
I wanted to go after Commissioner Hernandez because I would echo everything that he just said. I feel the same about the project. I'm supportive. I do have the concerns based on history with the encroachment into the riparian. But I do think that the questions that were raised in the April meeting have been addressed in this design. So yes, I'm supportive of it. And yeah, that's all I have to say.
Thank you. Commissioner Gorn?
Well, I agree. I thought that the previous meeting where the riparian corridor issue came up was really a lovely use of the Planning Commission to put, to ask about how things work and how it's supposed to work. I do still wonder, I don't know if this is a clarifying question, but I do still wonder about the footprint of the house being right next to this riparian corridor that's supposed to be protected. So when I look at it, having done a little bit of grading, I can't imagine building that house without intruding in that riparian corridor. So you're assuring me that they won't. They've said that they won't, but I look at it and I see about 4 different spots where the riparian corridor is right next to that house. So if you do anything, you could, make a little garden, let alone, do some grading for foundation work. I'm not convinced, but I think I'm going to have to take your assurances that that's the case, that you can actually build a house on that close to the riparian corridor and not touch it. So if that's the case, then I'm good.
Thank you, Commissioner Gorn. I think that all 4 of us present tonight would be in agreement that it's a delicate matter to have a project on that property that is so close to the riparian corridor. I'm reluctant, though, for us to feel that we have to go so far as to impose conditions beyond what is already existing in the city's zoning. I'm always in favor of keeping it as simple as it can be without jeopardizing what the aim is. And I would hope that with the city staff's oversight of what's required at construction and the permanence of the split rail fence on that buffer delineation, that could and would be sufficient. We can certainly discuss that and other aspects of it further if you like. Commissioner Hernandez.
I'd like to have city staff weigh in on this, if it's okay through the chair. I mean, my particular concern is we're really concerned about waterways, and along the coast side, there are many people who abuse their rights, put the wrong kinds of things in riparian areas and cause damage downstream. And, I'm always worried about those types of things here. We've had several situations, one including litigation that the city lost around inappropriate activity that was happening in the riparian zones. And there are many questions that get raised. So I'm curious, given the concerns that 2 of us have raised about potential work in the riparian area, what city staff's response is to our feedback and what they think the best path forward is.
Yeah, good idea. I think we of course welcome city staff's comments on this.
Well, for starters, we do have the mitigation measures that have been integrated into the CEQA document, and that's during construction, exclusionary fencing will be installed, and there's, frankly, I don't see any possibility of the waterway getting impacted during construction. And we've seen this on other projects, and we're required to review the construction on a daily basis, to make sure that the exclusionary fencing is still up, and at times even call the biologist back out to reevaluate the site. So I don't personally see an issue during construction. You know, it seems like the commission, the main concern is once the project is final, then what takes place in the buffer. So, Winter, you want to add to this?
I was just gonna add, oh, I'm sorry. I don't know if my headset is making a terrible noise. Sorry, Vice Chair Polgar, cover your ears. I just wanted to add in terms of the enforcement question, you do have a strong tool in code enforcement. And even if there were something like a deed restriction, somebody would still have to enforce that. Nothing is, you know, self-enforcing. So, you know, I think that you have a strong enforcement tool with code enforcement. I know city staff has, you know, used it on numerous occasions in the past. You never hope for that, but that is the tool that you currently have on the books to enforce these requirements. So, you know, I just wanted to provide that additional piece of information, and maybe Jill has additional thoughts as well.
Thank you. A couple more, just going back to the two conditions that you're thinking about, one, the construction condition, and two, the ongoing condition. In the construction condition, as Scott noted, mitigation measures are really detailed and they're very protective of the buffer, including exclusionary fencing. What we did in this particular condition of approval set is add a new condition for a pre-construction site meeting that will involve the contractor and all the city inspectors, as well as Scott and the biologist, to review the site conditions and cite things like, where is the porta potty going to go? Where are the contractors going to park? Having good neighbor notification. It isn't all about environmental, the biological environment, but also our neighborhood environment. And pre-construction site meetings can be really effective at just emphasizing and highlighting the importance of managing the buffer during construction. But frankly, it gives staff a chance to make sure all of those measures are fully installed before the contractor is given the go-ahead to start construction. So this is a really powerful tool that we've been doing on some other projects recently, and you'll see it added to our standard conditions. It's something we've been working on. In the ongoing condition, I do want to note, staff talked about this for whether a deed restriction or conservation easement, which is even more significant, would be appropriate for a case like this. We really haven't used those tools for individual parcels since I've been with the city. Perhaps they've been used in the past. Where I've seen them come into play is with subdivisions or larger developments, and certainly that happens on quite a few projects historically, including one I worked on, which is the Creekside subdivision that has a deed restriction on it next to Pillarcitos Creek. So that was something that we considered, and I'm happy to talk to you about this more, but we, as Winter described, the enforcement matter is really, we believe, going to be supported by having that split rail fence there, which is demarking the correct location. And then we'll hear about it, certainly. And, you know, the city gets out there every year. We're gonna get out there soon with grazing, for example. So we see properties on a fairly regular basis. So just want to share a little bit more from the kind of pragmatic side of it.
Thank you to all three members of city staff for that. Vice Chair Polgar.
I just wanted to follow on Jill's comments that first of all, I'm really pleased about this measure for the pre-construction kind of meeting. I think that's wonderful. And I think it's a really effective way to kind of get everybody on the same page and address not just the environmental, but the relationships with the neighbors, et cetera. That's fantastic. I'm really pleased. I can speak from personal experience in my construction projects that is a key step to making things go smoothly from the get-go. So I'm really thrilled to hear that. And I think that's a big deal in terms of helping with the construction and making sure that it is in compliance. So excellent. And I am in agreement that I think that the split rail fence will make a big difference for demarcating the riparian zone. And so I would be in agreement with Chair Ruddock about not including more or something additional. I would just be supportive based on what I've just heard in just approving it as is. Yeah, I just wanted to let staff know that.
Thank you for that. Commissioner Gorn.
So just to be clear, the fence that marks the riparian buffer zone, that is a split rail fence, that fence will be there at the start in some form and will stay there during construction. Is that my understanding?
Not exactly. So the same location is where the temporary construction exclusionary fencing will be installed and inspected. The installation and final product will be inspected by the biologist during the same time they're doing the surveys, the biological surveys. And
I guess
we'll need to stay up throughout construction. So,
okay, so a temporary fence will be there. I don't mean the split rail fence because that's at the end, but there will be a fence that protects that corridor, that you don't go past that fence, right?
correct.
Okay, good. Thank you.
Yes, and the exclusionary fencing, of course, is more exclusionary than a split rail fence. So that's appropriate. Any further discussion on this item? I'd like to thank staff for the good presentation and helpful answers to questions posed to you. If there's no further discussion, could we entertain a motion about this measure? Commissioner Hernandez.
I make a motion to approve the item before us as recommended by city staff.
Second.
Thank you.
I'll second.
Thank you. Roll call.
Commissioner Gorn,
Yes.
Commissioner Hernandez,
Yes.
Vice Chair Polgar,
Yes.
and Chair Ruddock.
Yes.
Motion approved.
Very good. Well, it's a short agenda tonight, and that brings us to Director Ekis's report.
Thank you, Chair. I just acknowledging this item. We want to thank our applicant for sticking this out and really working hard, and thank Scott in particular for guiding them through to this point. Just to note, this is in the Coastal Commission's appeals jurisdiction, so there's going to be 2 appeal periods that run for this project, and then assuming that it is not appealed, they can move on to building permit. For director updates, so quickly, to keep with the theme of your meeting, agenda forecast for you is that June 22nd is canceled. There will be no meeting on June 22nd. Bridget will put out a cancellation notice. And June 29th, we will have a special meeting of the Planning Commission as a joint study session with the Architectural Advisory Committee, and you will be looking at an updated set of plans for the proposed Hyatt at the intersection of South Main Street, Highway 1, and Higgins Canyon Road. The applicant is preparing to present the updated project to you. The plans will go on the website pretty soon, and we'll make sure that we put out a good notice. Story poles for the proposed project will be installed in about 2 weeks. They will be up I believe the intent is that they are fully installed by June 18th. So you will have plenty of time to take a look at them before your meeting. And we assume that lots of folks will see this, and you will have a one item agenda to give everybody plenty of time to learn about the revised project, ask questions, and of course, even though it's a study session, you will always take public comment. So that will be in Zoom format again, and we'll start talking to you in July about hopefully moving to in-person meetings. But so that's what we have in store for the rest of June. July could be trail month. On July 13th, project planner Brittany Cozzolino is preparing to bring a city project, which is the Poplar path. It's a path that runs parallel to Poplar from Railroad Avenue to the Coastal Trail. And we know some of you live very near there, so we want to make sure that we're prepared in advance whether or not you have conflicts, and we can talk about that later, but I just want to flag that. And then July 27th, we are very much hoping, this is Scott's project, to bring the Cosi Land Trust Coastal Trail Extension, which is south of the Seymour Watercourse area, and actually south of that, south of the Bird Trail. And both of those pathway projects have CEQA review in terms of an initial study and mitigated negative declaration. As soon as those documents are ready to be circulated, the project planner will make sure to email them to you so that you have plenty of time to go through that. That's kind of the bulk of your packet for items that have CEQA coverage, and we want to make sure that you're not jammed. You'll get your staff report and other details later, but we think that can be helpful. You read an initial study, or you received one anyway, you might have read it, for a project proposed at 909 Grandview Boulevard. Scott's received comments on that, and so he's doing some work on responding to comments, and we don't have the date pinned down as of right now as to when that's going to come back to you, but we'll confirm as soon as we know that. There may be some other items tucked in on your July agendas, and as long as they're ready and they're not too big, we'll do that. We want to keep things moving. The Architectural Advisory Committee meets next week, and there are 3 things they're going to look at. They're all on Main Street, and I believe that they're all Scott's projects, and they will all end up in the Planning Commission forum one way or the other. And in fact, one of them has already been here. 795 Main Street was a mixed-use building that you approved last fall. The applicant has revised their approach to the project, and it's a pretty big change. So we're processing this as a coastal development permit amendment, and we'll get some feedback from the Architectural Advisory Committee and then bring it back to you. 727 Main Street is a 2-story mixed-use building, just a couple doors to the north of the IDS property. And there's a new owner, and they are proposing some remodeling, including the facade, as well as, in fact, did we just look at that one with the AAC, Scott? I think I'm off.
Yes.
Is it already coming back though?
Not yet. We're waiting on.
Not yet. Okay, I think I got my list on. Okay, you're gonna see that one soon. They just saw that one. And then is 601 Main gonna go forward?
Yes.
Okay.
Not up for this
That is the corner of Main and near Montes. Yeah, it's Odyssey site. This is next to Cottage, those little cottage businesses on Main Street. And Apothecary is going to look to move in there, and so they have some design changes. Scott, I think I missed an AAC item. Which was it?
No, that's just the two on Main Street.
Just the two? Okay, okay. I've got them all mapped in my head. And okay, I don't have any director hearings this week or next. We'll update you soon on that. Coastside County Water District is tonight considering their urban water management plan. Maziar Bezerginia is there, our city engineer. He just provided comments on behalf of the city regarding the urban water management plan. And I prepared those comments, and I can just tell you that the gist is that we appreciated the water district staff support on our land use plan modeling work. As you know, we coordinated with them. And we acknowledge differences between the build out scenarios that they used for their modeling that were different than what we have in our land use plan. We give a little context about that. We also noted some differences in the water demand assumptions that they made that were a little bit different than what we had in the land use plan. And in a nutshell is the land use plan was more conservative than the urban water management plan. And so the city's request to the water district is to do exactly what the land use plan says, which is to monitor, collaborate, and report out about growth and the impacts of growth on infrastructure, including increases in water demand. So I think those comments should be well received, and I do hope that we'll get some more communication about water over time. The urban water management plan does identify that the multi-year drought condition is a serious scenario in the district area. Now, this is not to be alarmist. This is true for many districts, including quite a few in the Bosca area, which is where most of the CCWD water is supplied from. And that is our update for tonight. City Council, of course, has finished they're just about wrapped up on the budget. We have a couple contracts going to council. We do this every year for support to staff. We have a contract with a group that provides some supplemental planning support, as well as our building inspection function is conducted by a different contractor. So those are just a few things that keep our department running, and that's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Jill. Helpful and informative as always. Do any commissioners have planning commissioner communications to share? Commissioner Gorn, please.
Hi. So, I mean, it kind of dovetails with the Ritz starting to open up to have events. The city of Half Moon Bay is having an event July 1st. They're having a makers fair with, musicians and artists and glass blowing demonstration all downtown, which is just one more step. It's called Make It Main Street is what it's called. And I believe it's going to be every month, first Thursday. So it's one more step toward normality. So I'm very happy.
Good. A step towards economic resilience.
Yes.
Commissioner Hernandez, yes, please.
Just want to dovetail on the comments on the Ritz. I managed to squeeze in to the conservatory on the first day they were open for a business meeting. So very appreciative of the Ritz and all the contributions they make to our community. Through the chair, I'd like to raise the question of when we look at the long-term planning for our community, I'd like us to agendize an item around the sustainability of the Ritz and the erosion that's happening there, and ask city council for some kind of formal action so that we can maybe operate as a subcommittee or something to just look at the sustainability of the Ritz for the long term, because I go by there several times a month, walking along on the beach, and I'm very concerned about the rate of erosion that I visibly see there. So I just think it's something from a sustainability perspective of the community. We need to look at this from a long-term planning perspective in a more thoughtful way. And I know it's not an agendized item, so I don't want to have discussion on this. Just wanted to raise the chair as a request to push to city staff if you're so disposed.
Well, thank you, Commissioner Hernandez. I think that's well taken. I have one small item to share, which has to do with some part-time employees of the city, which are the goats who are south of Poplar parking lot grazing the fields. They're, according to the shepherd this evening, they're to move up to railroad right-of-way tomorrow about 9 or 10 a.m., which is always a scenic happening. Well, thank you, everybody. If there's nothing else, I guess the time may have come for us to adjourn.
Make a motion to adjourn.
Thank you. Do we have a second? Well, I'll second it.
Oh.
Commissioner Gorn,
Yes.
Commissioner Hernandez,
Aye.
Vice Chair Polgar,
Yes.
and Chair Reddick.
Yes.
Motion approved.
Meeting adjourned. Thank you,
Meeting
everybody.
adjourned. Have a great
Thank
evening.
you.
Thank
Night.
you.
Everyone
you
be
all.
well.
All right.
Take
See you
care.
3